Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, jazz fans. We're talking smooth, jazzy tech talk here today. The kind of jazz that sounds like the latest and greatest of the world of technology and science that they have to offer. We're talking tech talk with Matthew Dickerson right here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Settle in and get comfy. Now, in our jazzy lineup today, we're making your life a little bit smoother with digital passports and apps that'll track your travels, and even apps that remember what the doctor ordered when you cannot, even to save yourself. We herald the return of commuting in style, skimming above the waves on hydrofoils of the future, and we may just have the solution for at least one of those pesky forever chemicals that have been concerning us for the last couple of years. Now, more of that later. Let's waste no more time. Bringing to the microphone our very own tech boffin. Welcome, Matthew Dickerson. How's your week been?
Well, interesting. I have got my shirt on just because I almost lost it all at the Melbourne Cup last week. But I was quite fascinated. I'm not a big horse racing fan, but the Melbourne Cup's got a bit of a carnival atmosphere, and it just so happens that one of my children was born on Melbourne Cup Day many years ago. So I did say to her at the time, well, not when she was born, but some years later, that when your birthday falls on Melbourne Cup Day and you're over 18, we'll go to the Cup. And I had to honour that promise this year. Whoops.
They remembered.
That's right. So I went along to it. And look, it's a lot of atmosphere and carnival atmosphere. And I thought, well, here's a good opportunity to teach the kids about the perils of gambling, because of the house always wins, right. The bookmaker always wins. So I gave each of the kids and their partners, I said, here's $50. And we had rules of the day, of course. You can't do it without some analysis. So here's your little betting sheet. You must gamble all of that $50. And if you make money above $50, you get to keep it. So knock yourself out.
Yeah.
You've got to give me back the $50 I staked you. If you're less than $50, then that's it. You walk away, and hopefully for my $50 you've learned an important lesson. I kind of secretly hope they all lost it all, because you want them to do that to learn that gambling is bad and the odds are not in your favour. In fact, I actually did say to them, go and work out a plan, a system, some sort of, not just random, I like the name, because I want you to focus really hard and try and do it. And of course, you do all of that, and even the experts, I mean, the power of the crowd only gets it right. Across the last 100 years of horse racing, the favourite wins about 32% of the time. So with all of that crowd knowledge, with all of the...
Yeah, the Melbourne Cup is a shocker to just go, the favourite, I'm going on the favourite.
Well, it is a shocker because it's 24 horses, big field, and
they're all very good horses.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this was the whole 10-race carnival. So all 10 races in the day. I want you to be backing horses. I want you to be getting into it, and don't blow any more than the $50 that I've given you. And of course, there's no surprise here. It was a complete failure for all of them. They all lost all their money, apart from one who got a sneaky trifecta on the last race and managed to squeeze above the $50. Hopefully that wasn't enough to get that particular one excited about gambling in the future. But they asked me about the tote versus the bookmaker. And so I explained the tote in general concept. And I started thinking, I wonder how long the tote's been around, because it's a fairly complicated calculation to do the tote.
It would have to be.
Yeah, you've got all of these horses. You've got a pool of money. And, of course, talk about the house always winning. Well, absolutely the house wins, because they take their commission straight off the top before they distribute the rest of the funds. And funnily enough, in New South Wales anyway, the Totalisation Agency Board has some legislation that says they can't take more than 25%. And in some particular races or some particular bets, they do take the 25%. So you're giving a quarter of your money away to the house straight away.
What happens when everyone's losing?
Well, you can't with the tote. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah. So, but you think about the calculation, because you've got all this money being poured into wins and places, and then you've got to divide it up and see how much the pool is and then send it out. So you've got to have a computer for all that, which is sensible. But I went back and looked at the history of the tote, and the whole concept was invented in France in 1867. There would have been some pretty keen mathematicians around with pencil and paper.
Wow, that's some slide rule action right there.
That's right, there'd be some slide rules on fire. But what I love is that in 1913, well before we had Enigma, well before we had computers of any sort, there was an Aussie who came up with an automatic totalizer, and he did it in New Zealand, was the first place in the Ellerslie Racecourse in New Zealand. And so what it was a concept that when someone would put a bet on, there'd be a unit. So it might be, I'm not sure, £1 or a certain amount of money. And that unit would then click over in his mechanical totalizer, 1 unit for that horse and 1 unit for the total. So then when the horse or the race finally started, everyone could look up on the totalizer board and see how many units were bet on each particular horse. And then there was still some slide rule action at the end of the race because they knew the total pool, but then they'd need to work out, okay, the total pool, take a bit of a commission and then calculate how much each person that placed a bet on that particular horse won.
So there's no fudge factor in this. There's no guesswork. There's no, well, let's round it off and just...
No, well, absolutely not
So
now.
it's worked out, yeah.
Maybe
right.
back then there was a bit of fudge work that we'll just carry the one and, well, we'll just leave the one there aside. But I thought that was pretty impressive in 1913 to have some sort of automated, semi-automated process to calculate the tote. So the good part about it is completely transparent. You can see exactly what the pool is, and you can even look up now with various totes across the nation what the total pool is, and you can soon work out how many people have bet, all the rest of it. So I'm sure there's great scrutiny you could have there. But that was
less slide rule action.
Less slide rule action, no burning slide rules. But that was pretty easy to see what was going on there. But of course then we had SP bookies were all the go in the 50s and 60s. And I remember, this is the early 90s it would have been, I had a customer who would buy a new mobile phone off me about every 3 months or so. And I wasn't complaining because in those days I probably only sold one mobile phone per week. And this guy would come in, "G'day, Jimmy, how you going?" and sit on my phone. And eventually after probably a year of this, I eventually said, "So I'm intrigued why you need a new mobile phone." I was trying to scratch my head and work out why you need a new mobile phone every 3 or 4 months. It didn't seem to be sensible. And then he told me he was an SP bookie. He used to sit at the pub and these new mobile phone things were great for SP bookies. Take all his bets sitting at the pub or wherever he might be, and every now and again the police would do a crackdown. They'd confiscate his phone, so he'd have to go and buy a new phone. So I'm supporting the SP booking regime I was thinking at the time. But of course SP bookies were all the go in the 50s and 60s, and that was back when they introduced the off-course betting, the TAB, back in 1964, which allowed people to then bet offline with a tote, which is still going today. But I must admit, the kids on Melbourne Cup Day were using the on-course tote, but I just like the good old-fashioned bookie. There's your odds. You can have a talk to the guy. And look, he was my friend by the end of it. He said, "Matthew, come back again. We'd love to see you because you've just paid for dinner for me. So come back again next week." Keep coming. But it's just that I love that idea. I still used to like the idea when they'd scribble something on their bit of paper, which you couldn't read, of course, and you'd go back up to hand your bit of paper back in. But now it's all electronic as such. You're not doing the calculations anymore. Like that used to be a skill in itself. The bag handler used to be able to do those calculations very quickly, but now they just punch into a computer. So, look, it's great. The kids all lost their money. The tote's fascinating from a technology perspective.
So they did lose their money, even when the trifecta was...
He got ahead a little bit. That was the only one that managed to sneak ahead. But hopefully a lesson learned for all of them. And gambling is not in our future.
Well, did they really learn the lesson because it was your money? So provided you're gambling other people's money.
Funnily enough, I did say that. They said, "You learn a lesson." They said, "Yep, if we're going to gamble, use your money, Dad."
100%.
So you're spot on.
All right, all bets are off. Enough chit-chat. We'd better get cracking with today's episode. Now... just like a dodgy kebab, our first story seems to be repeating on us along a very similar line to our opener last week. Yes, sirree, the taboo on talking about toilet business has been lifted in light of our growing need to become more savvy about our inner health indicators. Ever since the public health campaign, where a group of polite company were sitting around a table and they started talking around poking their poo with a stick. So, folks, once again, I say all bets are off here. So, ladies and gentlemen, any tech that takes photos of your poop, now fair game here. We're going to discuss it all. You're going to tell the good listeners, Matthew, all about the new AI camera called Poop Check now.
I'm going to tell the good listeners and the not-so-good listeners.
Yeah, all right.
All our listeners are good, of course.
Everyone's getting the poop talk.
That's right. Now, we did talk last week, you're spot on, about a camera that you can put in your toilet, mount in your toilet, to analyse that poo at a very detailed level. Now, this isn't quite as detailed. This is really just doing it based on a few basic parameters, so not getting the spectroscopy that we had last week.
But listening to the noises that you were making while you're passing it.
I don't know if it does that.
Okay,
well,
right,
but why not? That sounds quite reasonable.
Well, there's an idea for the people developing the software.
The good part about this one is it's on your phone. So wherever you go, if it's not in your home, you can still take advantage of it. And what you do is you take or leave a deposit, and then you take a photo of that. And you like the term there, leave a deposit. So you looks at the shape, it looks at the colour, it looks at the texture, and it does use the Bristol stool chart. And I have heard about the Bristol stool chart before, which rates your your deposit from 1 to 7, 1 being constipated hard lump, 7 being diarrhea, and then basically it looks at that as a benchmark, and it also just compares the shape, the consistency, maybe presence of mucus, maybe a bit of blood, some colour variations, and gives you a timeline of what might be happening. So what it's really doing is saying we're not trying to use this to be a really good health assessment tool. We're more doing it as a health changing tool. So you might say, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to do more exercise. I'm going to eat more fibre. I'm going to make some changes. And then how does your poo compare over time? So not the detailed analysis we talked about last week, but just getting some analysis, some variation for you to analyse what's happening there. And
Right.
I think it would change. If you decide I'm going to cut back sugar out of my diet, then that would change what happens at the other end. I'm going to cut back certain foods, it would probably change the colour. And that might be interesting for you to see the changes in your diet in terms of what's happening, what comes out. I mean, getting very personal here, I ride my bike more than I run, but there's something and I actually talked to a few people who run a lot, and there was such a thing as a runner's poo. I can be sitting here not needing to go to the toilet. I go for a bike ride for an hour, no problems at all. I go for a run, 2 minutes in, I'm going, I need to go to the toilet. And it's almost like I've got a mix master inside me when I'm running. I'm sure it bounces around a bit.
Yeah.
Analysing that poo after a run compared to after a bike ride, I think would be significantly different. So I'm sure there's parts of it there about the exercise that you do.
We're all getting the details of your inner health today, which is wonderful.
I'm expecting a call from a doctor going, that's actually a really bad problem, Matthew. You need to do something about that. So the idea here is that really just using your phone, tracking what's happening with your poo, getting that ongoing timeline, that ongoing analysis of it. But I just think we are going to get more and more into analysing what's happening with our body. And we keep talking about it. Don't rely on Dr. Google. Go to the doctor when you see something wrong. But sometimes we just need a bit of a push in the right direction before we actually do something about it. And this is one of those ways we might get that slight nudge in the right direction.
Wonderful. Your digital wallet is about to get a bit fatter now, and not necessarily with cash, I'm sorry to say. Most forms of identification now can be loaded onto your phone to streamline your day. You can load up credit cards and reward cards, memberships and Medicare, all available with a swipe and a tap. But until now, passports have remained a sticking point. The passport in booklet form and the loads of paperwork that go along with inching through customs have been the unchangeable way things are done in international travel. But Matthew, digital passports may get people flowing through customs much more fluidly now.
They might, and I think there's a whole range of good reasons for going this way. It's funny when you go through some borders now, you hand over the passport and you used to like getting the stamp in there. Or
Yeah, that's
get out
right.
The big
It was
machine,
like,
that clunk.
Something to show off to friends.
Yeah, that's right. I have a passport, look at all these stamps I've got in there. And there are some now that you go through and they don't stamp it. And I know my kids have been through going, could you stamp it, please? Could you put something on there?
My passport's got pages in it, but they're all blank. There's nothing on them.
That's right. So it's changing. Obviously, they're using more electronic processing of it, but we've still got that physical passport on it. It's something that you're travelling, you carry it with you all the time. You don't want to leave it back in your...
Something to lose.
Well, it's something to lose. And I was staying at an Airbnb one time in France, it was, and we walked up the stairs and there were actually some Aussies there, and they said, just to let you know, make sure you keep your valuables tight because we just got broken into and their passport got stolen and they were meant to fly home the next day. So that was a major drama for them, going to the embassy, trying to get a passport, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure they didn't fly home the next day. So it's a problem. So it makes sense to get it on your phone. Now, people look at that and say, well, if you lose your phone, well, I'm pretty confident that if someone steals my phone or I lose it, I'm not happy about it because I'll go and buy a new phone, but I can buy a new phone. I can download my complete phone that's backed up in the cloud, and half an hour later, I've got my passport again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Whereas if my real passport gets stolen, that's a major drama. So this all sounds good to me. What I do like, which probably is good for Apple, I do like the idea of using something that's already on the phone. So, for example, in New South Wales in Australia, we've got our digital driver's license, but you've got to use the Service New South Wales app. So different components of your phone need different apps to be able to show your ID. It just makes more sense to put them all in some common framework. Don't reinvent the wheel, if you like. Say, well, that New South Wales driver's license, put it in your Apple Wallet. That passport, put it in your Apple Wallet. So put them all in that, and obviously from an Android point of view, do the same thing as well, so that you're essentially getting all of those components all-in-one common tool. That just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And I saw someone, actually was at the Melbourne Cup, I ran into a friend there and he pulled out his wallet and I said, wow, how old-fashioned is that? What have you got a wallet for? And he opened it up and he had a couple of credit cards in there and a bit of cash. That was it. And I went, well, it's almost, what do you have it for now? Your driver's license you don't need, your credit card you don't need, maybe a bit of cash, but who carries cash? So you used to have a full wallet of a bunch of stuff.
That's right.
Now you just don't.
Well, I still have a wallet, but I just don't ever refer to it.
That's right. You just carry it there for old time's sake.
Well, a new credit card comes in the mail. You've got to put it somewhere.
That's right.
And so
Put it in a wallet
it
that
gets
sits on your
stashed in the
shelf.
wallet. And yeah, that's it.
Look at this, kids. Back in the day, this is what we used to have. So that's all fantastic. The only minor issue at the moment is at the moment you can only use this particular passport in the Apple Wallet in the US, which tends to defeat the purpose of travelling overseas.
Yeah.
So
you're
US,
fine getting out of the US, but when you arrive in Australia, they're like, oh, sorry, we're going to need to
what do you got there, buddy? I need a physical passport.
I need paper.
So at the moment, they're using it within the US for domestic travel, which you probably don't need
Do you
your
need
passport for. No,
yeah.
that's right. But some people would say for some states you might need a passport to come in. But they're using it for ID and testing out the concept because you've got countries, the UK is one, Australia is another, that are looking at what they might do as well to be able to have some form of digital passport. So let's trial it domestically, fine. It seems to work, everything seems to be okay. And then depending where you're flying to, you might be able to say, oh, okay, let's start using it. So Canada might come on board, for example, or Australia or the UK. So, okay, I'm going to the UK for a week. I don't need my passport. I've got my Apple Wallet with my passport in there.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's probably more secure. If it's set up right, it's got to be more secure than a physical passport.
For sure, yeah.
It's got to be harder to forge a passport these days. If you watch movies, Catch Me If You Can type movies from days of yore, they cut out a little photo and stick it in someone else's passport, and that's it, I've got a fake passport, but I'm sure it's a bit harder than that now. But a digital wallet seems like it makes sense to me. So, look, I love the idea. I love the idea of having it all in one, but I wish there'd be another industry that could get on board, and that's checking into hotels. It still seems to be the most painful process in the world. Every hotel I check into, you walk up there and they hand over a bit of paper and say, fill in your details. You know my details. I've checked in. I've got all the information there. If you really want me to sign something, print out something with all my details, but I've still got to fill in my name and my various details. And why? So it just do it a bit better. And that's what they're talking about with this. They're saying once you've got some sort of digital ID or digital passport in your wallet, then hotels, you'll be able to just self-check. You walk up, you self-check in, you'll have keyless entry in your doors, and away you go. So that's going to be worth it for me alone.
Yep,
yeah.
Makes sense.
So,
we're living in 2025. We're headed towards 2026. It's about time.
Right, you tell them, James.
I don't know about you, but I get a certain degree of anxiety from visits to the doctor. Not so much worrying about my symptoms and diagnoses, well, that's something else, but more to do with remembering the details to work out what's the most important thing that was just said to me by the doctor. I'm completely okay and accept that I have tuberculosis and a dash of polio on the side, but with all the bits and bobs of the where to from here rattling through my head, well, that's where I go all Homer Simpson on a glaze over in the eyes and until I'm settling the account at the desk, I guess. Now, Matt, people like me need either an app for this sort of thing to save ourselves from ourselves, I guess.
Well, they do say that necessity is the mother of invention, and I think that's exactly what happened here. There's a gentleman named Ian Wharton who was helping his father go through early stage of Alzheimer's, but he couldn't be with him at every doctor's appointment, and sometimes the doctor may not want someone else in the room because they want to have some confidentiality with their patient, and he'd say, Dad, what happened? And he'd go, oh, well, I think it's okay, son. Well, you sure, Dad? You sure it's okay?
I just can't remember anything that was said.
Correct.
He said a lot of stuff to me.
That's right. And
I think I'm okay. I think it means I'm okay.
Even if you haven't got early stage Alzheimer's, you probably struggle a little bit to remember it all. So Ian developed an app. And essentially that app, you sit down on your phone in between yourself and the doctor, and obviously check with the doctor that it's okay, that essentially this recording or this conversation is going to be recorded, but it summarises the conversation. It's specifically looking for medical terms. It then goes through and says at the end of it, here's a summary of what was said. The doctor can have a look at that summary and go, yep, that's pretty well spot on. You walk out of the doctor's surgery, your father, brother, uncle, wife, whatever says, what happened? You go, here's what happened. Here's a mirror, and that's the app's called Mirror. Here's a mirror of the conversation that I had with the doctor today. Oh, good. Oh, so you need to do that. Better make sure that's right. Just a few key points from the conversation. So all of that detailed analysis, detailed discussion is summarised down to a few key points.
Keeping it simple.
That's right. Now, that's version 1. Version 2 will be giving you some prompting questions to ask that might seem relevant. So the app listens away and says, oh, what about blah, blah, blah. And so there's some questions you might ask the doctor as well, which will then be recorded as part of that overall summary. So I think it seems nice. I think it sounds like a nice way to remember the conversation, to take some action from that conversation. And I'm pretty sure doctors would be okay with it. I wondered when I first started looking at this story, I wondered whether doctors would go, hold on, I don't want you doing that because you might sue me later. But surely doctors are going to be okay with the advice they're giving being remembered by their patient rather than being worried about being sued. So I hope that'll be the case. I haven't talked to any doctors about it, but I hope that'll be the case.
Well, we'll have to watch this space and see whether or not this takes off.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will, because I think it does empower patients a little bit more.
Gone are the days of making fire from sticks and helping elderly people to cross the road. The scouting movement in the States are moving with the times now, and young boys and girls are earning badges for the new world. Cybersecurity and artificial intelligence are the new pages on the Scouting Handbook in the US. A modern scout needs to navigate the wilderness and the internet jungle all in one. Matt, this is all well and good, but who's going to help Grandpa Simpson across Main Street at peak hour?
Isn't it funny? I know very little about Boy Scouts. They're not called Boy Scouts anymore. I do know that much. They're now called Scouting America because you've got about 20% of the membership that's now female, so it doesn't make sense to be called Boy Scouts. But I'm with you. The extensive knowledge I have of Boy Scouts and Scouting America is from The Simpsons. So lots of things I've learned about America is from The Simpsons. In fact, I remember the first time I saw a school bus in America, and I immediately recognised it as a school bus because it was a yellow bus with a long overhang at the back. I don't know why, but a long overhang at the back from the back axles. And I went, that's got to be a school bus because in The Simpsons, that's what a school bus looks like. That's right. So there's 130 different merit badges that you can earn if you're in Scouting America, which sounds pretty good. So I'm sure they've still got the badges for helping Grandpa Simpson across the road and for making some fire and for surviving in the wilderness, whatever else they've got out there. But 2 new ones which just give you an idea of the importance of some sort of technology awareness today in society. So one of them is about cybersecurity. So just having some understanding of cybersecurity, having some basic skills. And so maybe you can teach Grandpa Simpson about how to avoid scams, how to be aware of cybersecurity rather than just help him across the road. Because
the scouting movement's all about been life skills, and they've sort of judged, community actions, helping people across the road and whatnot. Being an active community member, that's an important life skill. But this, survival in the e-space now, is a big one. Pretty
important. So I think, and they've got some good practical components of it, not just read a bit of theory, actually some practical components of what you might do to make yourself a bit more secure, but also an AI badge. And that's learning about algorithms, automation, machine learning, how those things affect daily life. So I actually think it's a really good idea because the sooner we can get kids thinking about this, so not just about surviving, not just about life skills, about these skills, which are life skills now, getting people thinking about those at the age of 5 or 10 means that when they get to the stage of being 20 or 30 and they're out there.
It's just second nature and much more ready for the next step. Because this is, the need for cybersecurity is going to be constantly changing.
I'd love to see whether there's a translation from the kids that go through Scouting America and get some of these badges and then go into some sort of STEM career, whether that starts to influence them, but maybe they didn't go from being helping people across the road to lollipop people, so maybe there's no correlation there. Maybe it's just fun stuff they do. But I think it's a good move. But it also just shows us how much a part of society everything E is at the moment, and we've got to be on board with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was sometime in the 70s when promoters realised that Sydney Harbour had something more to offer than a passage to port. With images centred on an iconic dark iron bridge juxtaposed against a gleaming and symbolic opera house, the country woke up to the fact that we had something to lure tourists from across the planet. And skimming just above the crystal blue waters in every shot in the 70s and 80s, the Sydney Harbour hydrofoil became an icon in itself. That was until the 90s arrived and ferry transport seemed to find a better way. The hydrofoil just faded away. But now that electric transport is creating something of a revolution in transport. Hydrofoil technology may be about to enter a renaissance, and ferry services around the world may find themselves elevated above the waves, Matt.
So were you ever lucky enough to go
I
on
missed out.
Yeah.
No, my father took my brother and sister to Sydney once for a big family occasion. I stayed at home with Mum and my little brothers, and they went on the hydrofoil, and I've been dirty about it ever since. I've been holding on to that one for 40 years.
Good. Well, maybe one day it'll come back, because I'm the same as you. I never got to go on the hydrofoil, but I remember watching it, and it was very much a V-shaped hydrofoil, if you remember. And I watched that and I went, wow, look at that. It just comes up out of the water. Wow, how cool is that?
Fast.
Yeah. And it made so much sense to me as a kid, obviously not running a commercial operation, but just as a kid, I went, why would you keep doing that? Why would you shut that down? So that reduced the journey from Circular Quay across to Manly from 35 minutes in a ferry to 15 minutes. How cool was that? What a great idea.
Yep.
So that was all fantastic, but that was retired in 1991. So it was a long time ago, and I still remember it as if, no, it can't have been that long ago. Maybe it was 20 years ago, but no, it was a long time ago that the hydrofoil was retired, and they said at the time it had high operational costs. And I thought, shouldn't it have been cheaper to run because it would have had less friction with less of the hull in the water? But I think it needed to have that much diesel power going into it to get it up.
To get that power
onto
going.
the foil,
Yeah, and keep it up.
So the next thing, of course, that we in Australia love in terms of foils and boating is the America's Cup, 1983. In fact, I would almost go on record as to say our greatest ever sporting achievement.
Oh,
it's a big call.
Well, but definitely arguable because it had never been won by any other country
132 years it had been
other
won
than America.
by America.
No one
That's
had
right.
won by beaten America at it.
That's right.
And poor old Dennis Conner was the first one to lose it.
That's right.
First captain to lose it. And
What a way to go down.
I remember
in
his
history.
sad face being part of my delight.
But there's some other
But
great.
we all became experts in sailing in 1983, didn't we?
There's some other great things. I don't want to put down, the Bradman, the Invincibles, some great rugby and rugby league. Kathy Freeman, Ian
but
Thorpe.
to steal something that had been owned for 132 years.
Yeah, so I'm sitting it out there. I'm sitting at number one still. And, of course, there was all the mystery around the wing keel. Ben Lexon, the designer of that, had this wonderful
part
wing
of the
keel.
hype.
Oh, absolutely.
And also just a tip of the hat to Men at Work and Down Under as well. It became the new national anthem for a little while.
That's right. And, of course, Bob Hawke saying anyone that sacks his employee today is, and I won't use the exact language you use, but he's not a very nice person. So the wing keel was there. But, of course, that didn't raise the boat out of the water.
No.
I don't know what it did, but it was pretty cool. And maybe it did just lift it ever so slightly up, which just reduced the friction slightly.
Maybe.
I don't know what the concept was with the wing keel, but I turned on the TV one day, many years after that, and I saw America's Cup, and I went, they're all up on wings. What's going on? They're foiling. And so there was a rule exploitation by one of the competitors in one of the years about 30 years after Australia won the America's Cup, that essentially they went, oh, we think we could exploit that rule and actually get our boats to foil. And so now it's essentially, that's part of the rules. They can all foil, and it is fascinating watching them.
I've got a niece who's an Olympic sailor, and there are so many different classes of sailing now where they're all foiled. If you can't get out of the water, you're dragging the chain.
And so she foils on her.
Yeah,
so she's a single person.
In the NACRO. No, it's a two-person.
Two-person,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But and some of those small boats, they're incredible. What they do, they look so stable when they get up,
Yep.
but it just seems like it doesn't make sense. It's this little tiny thing holding it there. So foiling is all the go. Now, what's changed? Why did we have a hydrofoil in 1991 that then got shut down, and now here we are in 2025 and foiling's all the go, whether it be Olympic sports or America's Cup or ferries? And this is the big story now, is you've got ferries. Now, what's changed? The first thing that's changed is we used to have the old hydrofoil with a big steel V. We didn't understand the flow of fluids well enough, although it's a bit like a plane, so we probably understood it enough, but it didn't, I suppose, click with people to just put a wing under the water, because that seemed to make sense. So there was that part of it. But the main thing is we've got better materials now. We keep talking about material science. We've got better materials now. So we've got carbon fibre, no longer steel. We've got microcomputers and sensors that can adjust the foil ever so slightly to keep it exactly where it needs to be. And, of course, we've got boats that are automatically balanced with those microsensors. So not like the hydrofoil that sat up at a very steep angle on the front foil and then the back was still on the water. The whole boat comes up on two foils, when sometimes America's Cup is on one, but typically with these ferries, they're on two foils. And so to give you an idea of the changes, you've got boats being made now, we're talking about ferries being made, that are getting to places from A to B about half the time, but using 80% less energy because surface area. It comes back to that surface area. You stick that whole big hull in the water, there's a lot of friction between the water and the hull, all that surface area. Get that surface area out of the water, and those little tiny foils have got not much surface area, so it reduces the drag dramatically.
But if the sea's choppy, you keep hitting a wave at the wrong angle, an upcoming wave, and you're coming down, that's going to slow you down. You feel that while you're in a boat that's right, sitting in the water. You actually feel, with each bump, you feel yourself lurch just a little bit further forward, and that's slowing you down, right?
Correct.
So if you're sitting out of the water and just cutting through those waves, it's a smoother ride.
That's right. And that is one of the things as well, because it's just relying on a certain amount of water, and again, those micro sensors, a certain amount of water being above and below the wing essentially to keep it up. So you can just have that half a metre or so below the water, and the hull sitting up above. There can be choppy sea, it can be uneven sea, and you're really only just riding the gentle swell rather than each individual wave. And you're right, you go across choppy waters, you're slapping the water and you feel yourself, they say, lurching backwards and forwards, and it's a very unpleasant ride, and you end up seasick sometimes from that. So all of that means that we're going to have foils on ferries, so we might see it again on Sydney Harbour. So you and I might be able to get to finally ride a foil on Sydney Harbour.
I reckon there's a high chance that you would, for sure.
But it won't be a hydrofoil. It'll just be a normal ferry, and you'll see these ferries. So there's one company called Candela, Candela. They're making them, they're selling them around the world, but there'll be other companies who will get onto it as well. The other part is they're doing it often with electric motors now. You don't need as much range, if you like, because you're using much less power, so you don't need a big diesel motor throbbing away there. You can do it with batteries. You get above the water using less power, and it's very quiet because you're not slapping the water.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Just scooting through the water, and it'd be like sailing.
Yeah, adding an electric motor into the mix, so you've got very little noise from that, and you really are just going along. And I think they're getting the foil so much better, you don't need to be going quite as fast to be able to get it to lift up out of the water. So a whole range of cool things. It's kind of, to me, it's one of the things that I like the idea of the speed, I like the idea of the smoothness, but it's really sustainability that's driving it, but we'll get a whole range of other advantages because of sustainability. So, pretty cool. I can hardly wait to see it on Sydney Harbour.
Bring it on, and maybe I'll be able to shed this this rock on my back about
you and I can go down together and go, we're going on this.
For having missed out.
And tell your brother you're not coming on that first ride with me, okay?
Well, AI systems have certainly changed how things are done these days, and early 2023 may just act as a marker in the history of civilization, like the invention of the wheel or farming or the development of writing or even the steam engine. And as with any of those key markers in history, we know that the people changed. With the onset of AI, there's been a power shift. Where machines have always made a job easier, they all in the past still needed humans to be at the controls, but not with AI now. Psychologists are noting a concerning shift in the human condition now that AI is prolific, and this is going to require some tweaking as we head into the future, Matt.
Yeah, and look, unfortunately, there is a wrongful death lawsuit that's already been filed against ChatGPT.
Wow.
The parents of a 16-year-old person took his own life after some ChatGPT interactions. And we've talked about it before. Chat is your greatest cheerleader. Every idea you have is great. Now, I have no idea about the individual circumstances of that death. It's obviously a terrible situation. But if you said to Chat, I think I want to end my life and here is the method that I'm going to do it, then it wouldn't be surprised if Chat said, that's a great method that you've chosen there, and here's some other tips about how to do that. Now, obviously there's been some refining of that, and now Chat has not only gotten to the point where they've got some psychologists and psychiatrists together and started to work out how it should respond to some of these questions that might be asked. So they had a group of 170 people who are mental health experts across 60 countries to try and get the responses better. More than that, they're actually releasing data on the number of people that are having these conversations that are concerning. And when you look at it, it doesn't sound that scary. 0.07% of ChatGPT you in any given week are showing signs in their conversation with chat of mental health emergencies, mania, psychosis, suicidal thoughts. And you think, well, that's not many. And you look at society, there's probably more people in society that are having those sort of conversations and thoughts. But when you consider there are 800 million weekly active users on chat, that's about 560,000 people each and every week having these conversations. So chat's taken it upon themselves, maybe driven by the lawsuit, maybe because they just want to do the right thing by society, to see if they can address these and see if they can get some better answers when people start having these thoughts. Give them a different page to go to, give them some resources to go on, try and direct them away from some of these thoughts they might be having.
Yeah, the idea of a computer developing empathy is, I think it's a great idea, but it's also a bit alarming too, that they can go to that level.
You're exactly right. And I think the problem here is if you have AI empathy without human oversight, you could probably inadvertently reinforce some delusions or some emotional distress. You might say to chat, I went to work today and they're all looking at me and I think they all think that I've got a strange head, and you might start to talk that way, and chat might reinforce that and say, yes, well, those people are terrible people thinking that way, and it might reinforce those. Now, I'm making up these comments and thought processes, but you can just see the way chat might reinforce some of your thoughts, because chat doesn't like to disagree with you. Chat doesn't want to say you're completely wrong. Even when you give it information, I've tried this as an experiment. I've said something that's completely wrong.
You've set it up.
And chat says, well, I can see why you might be thinking that way, Matthew, but here is probably a more accepted view. It doesn't say, you're just wrong. That's completely bogus. What you're saying there is rubbish, which is what you wanted to say. If you said that to a human, they would say, you're full of it. Just here's what the real information is. So it is a bit of a concern, but at least now maybe the death of one person might change the whole thought process for chat and realise there's a huge responsibility there on people who are writing the code for chat to make sure that this doesn't happen.
For those people who've never really understood the difference between intelligence and wisdom, I think that's where we're coming from right now. That AI is going to need some wisdom.
It's a good point, actually. So intelligence, you can have all the data and all the information. How do you apply that? How do you apply wisdom? And wisdom.
How can you know when to hold back? And
wisdom often comes with experience. And so how much experience has chat got? It's got maybe 2 years of experience, or maybe it's got an infinite number of years of experience and wisdom because of all the information it's got available to it.
Yeah, but knowing the human condition is something else. It takes a long time to learn, for us at least. We'll wonder what happens with our AI now.
Yeah, and look, the thing here is that AI could effectively be a first responder for mental health. You hope people would ring Lifeline, for example. You hope people would ring someone that's trained up in that, but they're probably having these interactions with chat before they get to the stage where they feel like they've got to ring Lifeline. So
we've already talked about people, lonely in love and whatnot, and seeking, affection from AI. Yep. So when you've got that level of personal trust in AI,
it's a scary world, isn't it?
It is a scary world, yeah. Have you ever lost something and had someone helpfully offer their advice to retrace your steps? Yeah, that advice is helpful for people under the age of 10, and that's about it, I reckon. My recommendation to young adults is just to smile and nod in reply, but I would go as far as to say that once you hit 35, the advice to retrace your steps can reasonably be met with low-level physical violence. Now, if you're over 50, there'll be times when you freely accept that you are where you are now, but you have very little recall of the events that brought you to that point 20 minutes ago, and that's fair enough. If only there was an app to help us retrace our steps, Matt.
And I think this is more retracing your steps on a larger scale.
Oh, right, okay.
Where did I go in the house from A to B? So but there's no reason it couldn't be used for that, because there'll obviously be some settings, some parameters.
Yeah, but even, if you think about, if someone asked me now, where did you go today? You might have left it in this place or that place. Where did you go around town? No.
So the concept of this new, in iOS 26, they've got a little component called Visited Places, and it's an app that tracks your locations that you visited. Now, when it says visited, And there are settings you can change it, so you probably could go back to that level if you wanted to. It really is visited not just stopping at the traffic lights, but more stopping at a cafe. So not for 30 seconds while the lights are red, but for half an hour or an hour. So you could retrace and went, oh, that's right, I went and had coffee there, and then I went across and picked up that stuff from that place. I had to wait in line for 5 minutes, that type of thing. But I think the main use that I can see for this is holidays. Now, my wife is our holiday planner, and sometimes when we go on holidays, it's a whirlwind. And then I'll be talking to someone and they'll say, oh, have you been to a certain city? And I go, I know we went to that country. I think we went to that city because we went and did about 10 cities in 2 days, it seemed like. So having the ability to go back on my phone and look, oh yeah, there is a place I've been there. And one of my daughters found an app that you could actually go and add all the places you visited. And I love that because I started putting some of the places I've been so I could remember some of these places. Maybe they're not that memorable if I can't remember them, but this would do it for me automatically. Now, you've got settings in there. You can change it, say, to how long you dwell, for example. You can track the last 3 months, the last year, or indefinitely. And I love that idea because I'm sure as I get older, I'll go, gee, I'm sure I've been to the Melbourne Cup one year. I'll just have to go back and have a look when I went, oh, that's right, 2025 I went to the Melbourne Cup. Yes, I can remember that now.
But then I wonder, if you don't have the memory of being there at the Melbourne Cup, it's just, oh, my phone says I went there. Maybe my phone's gaslighting me.
That could be too. So we know there's been psychologists who have done work on implanted memories. And I do wonder if someone said, remember when you went to the Melbourne Cup, whatever year it was?
The Mandela effect. Is this the Mandela effect, I think?
I'm not sure what it's called, but I know...
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yes, I'm getting off track.
There is the concept of implanted memories where you can actually have someone that done tests where they've implanted memories in people and shown them photos. So you remember when you saw Bugs Bunny at Disney or whatever.
Movie World.
Yeah, whichever one. It's not meant to be at. And I remember that now because I saw that photo, but it was an implanted memory. And so you could look back that. So I wonder in 5 years' time, someone says, oh, I remember the Melbourne Cup that year. And you go, okay, am I remembering going there? Or am I remembering you telling me that I was there, therefore I was there, and so what can I... But looking at visited places, I'd go, oh, well, I was definitely there, and now go look at some photos, and then that would jog my memory. So that's sometimes how I use photos as well. Sometimes I'll go and look at a map and I'll go and look for places I've been and then I'll see a photo. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Who's that random in the photo? Oh, that's your wife. Oh, that's right. Yep, I remember that now. So I do like...
a different haircut.
Yeah, that's right. I do like the idea. And you can add notes about different places. Definitely love this place. I'd go back again or whatever. You can share it with friends if you want to. So you can say this is a great place and then share that out with people. But it's just a way... I suppose it's an indication of how much we travel now compared to 30, 40 years ago. Travel's a big deal, especially overseas travel's a big deal. Now it doesn't seem to be so much. But I'm not just talking about overseas travel. It can be around your local town, around your local environment, out to various places. There's a whole range of places we go to that we don't always immediately remember later on, but you pull out your phone, although there is that painful thing. I said it to someone the other day. They said, oh, I've got this cool photo. And then they sat there for the next minute searching. I feel like saying, if you can't get it straight away, it loses its effect.
Yeah,
it might be the same with this.
Exactly 2 seconds to find this photo.
That's exactly it. So I remember being in that location. I'll just go and, okay, your time's up, buddy. That's it.
15 minutes later, no, I've got to show you that photo. No, it's lost its all
meaning now. That's right. So I do like it. I haven't really started to use it yet. It's only just come out. But I do wonder how much I'll actually use it and how much I'll need it to jog my memory in the future.
In the age of microplastics and forever chemicals, a new field of engineering has emerged out of need. A new breed of scientists are working at strategies to remove these tiny little threats and hopefully delete the concept of forever chemicals, if I can spit that out. Delete them altogether. Now, Teflon is one of those forever chemicals. Designed to save your washing up woes, tiny scratches in your non-stick pans have been adding to your personal stash or flushed into our waterways with each meal. And the solution may be in recycling Teflon into more useful temporary substances like toothpaste. Matt, this is extraordinary. Toothpaste from Teflon.
And we are getting better. And I actually thought the jury was out at one stage with Teflon. I thought we were giving up on Teflon. I thought because it was a PFAS, a forever chemical, I thought we'd go no more Teflon. But we still use Teflon. We use Teflon in catheters, for example. It's a really good slippery surface, so it's great. And it seems to be okay, except when we maybe break it down or try and break it down or
Yeah.
dispose of those things into some sort of rubbish pile or some sort of rubbish tip, and then it starts to get into our waterways and away it goes from there. So we've been using it for a long time, 1938. Having said that, we have used other things for a long time. Asbestos, we all thought was fantastic when asbestos first came out, and of course it's been proven not to be so much. And this is one of those that we see, and probably the bigger issue I think with PFAS is firefighting. They used to be used, there were PFAS in various firefighting foams, and you'd see people coming along and do training, fire services do training on various fields or at airports, and they're spraying PFAS around everywhere. I think it's a great idea to help put out fires, but obviously now we've found out that it's not so great. So some researchers at the University of Birmingham and Newcastle University in the UK have come up with a recycling process for Teflon, and it doesn't involve high heat or solvents. It involves a word that I'm going to just slip into casual conversation sometime in the next week because I love the word, mechanochemistry. So effectively using physical motion to trigger chemical reactions. So essentially they break up, let's say you've got a saucepan with Teflon on it, you break it up into small pieces, you throw it into a ball mill, which is basically a steel container that's got balls in there and vibrates intensely, and that breaks down those molecular bonds. And I was pretty impressed with that because I thought molecular bonds are pretty strong.
Yeah.
Normally you'd expect to have some sort of solvent or some sort of chemical process to break down a molecular bond. But that mechanochemistry, that essentially vibration, will break that down. And what do you get at the end of it? You'll get a bit of fluoride. You get some sodium as well, but you won't get any residual chemicals. And they've done a whole range of tests on that to make sure that's the case. So they can take some Teflon, throw it in the ball mill, away it goes. Out the other end comes, oh, here we go, we've got something we can use in toothpaste. So fantastic. So we have been struggling
That's amazing.
for some way to break down
Yeah.
forever chemicals. Now, it's a bit more convenient because they might be on saucepans rather than already in our ground or in waterways where many of those PFASs are. But at least it's one way we can break down one of those components. So happy days. We can use Teflon.
And it's just about, for all those other bits and pieces that are, in landfill and in tips around the world. Perhaps we start a new industry where we start mining those,
Yeah, that's a good point.
rather than going mining into, the environment to dig out fluoride. We go and find it in the tips and whatnot.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
think, it's a new way of thinking.
It is, and I do love that idea that, again, I've talked about it a lot. We as humans are quite ingenious in the way we think about things.
Yeah.
I'm sure when they were trying to work out ways to break down PFAS, they were looking at a whole range of chemical processes because it makes sense. We've got to work out a way to break this down. How can we break it down? It lasts for thousands of years. Let's see if we can break it down. And someone went, have we tried vibrating the heck out of it? Oh, that'd be silly. Why would you do that? But again, we come up with different concepts. And I think that's where we will still be needed when AI takes over the world. They'll still keep a few of us around just for those left field ideas. I'm not sure that AI would have thought of that.
So you've got to start keeping a notebook then, right now, of just your good ideas.
Crazy ideas. No, not good ideas.
Crazy.
AI come up with good ideas. Crazy
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah,
I want just the left field, stupid, crazy ideas that might turn out to be okay.
And when the Terminator knocks on your door, you can flash the notebook and say, "But no, you need me."
You need me, that's right.
The days of having AI solve your internet search problems for free may be coming to a close. Web browsers have been using AI to bring up quick conversational solutions for a while now, but some discerning users have been complaining about limitations in what the AI engines provide. Now, ChatGPT's Atlas AI may replace our current models though, but at a price of a subscription fee. Matt, in my experience, a large proportion of the human population is prepared to put out whatever, provided they don't have to pay for it. So put up with whatever, I should say. Is Atlas AI going to change all that?
It's interesting, isn't it? When pay TV came out, I went, wow, how cool. No more ads.
Yeah.
There's now ads, so that's a separate story altogether. But I still didn't get pay TV because I had to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll put up with the ads because it's free. So I wonder with this as well, and we have talked about it, OpenAI has captured the market with ChatGPT. We know they're losing a lot of money every single second they exist because of all the processing power they need for their back-end servers. So they're trying to work out ways to make money. Now, you can pay a small subscription, but about 5% of people that use ChatGPT are actually paying for it at the moment. So not many people are paying for it. We talked about it before where you're going to start to see purchases being made through ChatGPT. Obviously, there'll be some sort of commission basis for those purchases. And this is the next step they're trying to take. And I think they're just trying a few different things to see how they go. So rather than use your Google Chrome or your Edge or your Safari and use it for free, they've got their own browser, which is not free. So how's that going to go? Because I think the same as you, that if it's not free, people will go, I'll just take the free option.
Yeah.
Now, Atlas is really designed for you to talk to, but I can talk to my ChatGPT app on my phone. I don't need a custom browser to be able to talk to it. So whether they stop me from talking to it, I'm not sure. They do put some things in place. So, for example, when you start to have a conversation, if you're using Atlas, you can use it for free to begin with. It'll cut you off after a certain amount of time, or if you try and make purchases, or if you try and put certain information in. So they're trying to put some barriers in place so you can have a little tease, but after that, you've got to go and pay for it. But I think they've got to work out another business model. And obviously, Google with search engines used, or search engines in general, worked at a model which was advertising. And that seems maybe too obvious. Maybe that's where they're thinking here, that that's the obvious model, so let's not do that. Let's see if other ways we can have it. But I can remember, and I still pay for some of them now, where we used to pay a lot of money for various applications, whether you use Adobe Photoshop or Corel Draw. You expected to pay $1,000 for those. Now, can you imagine downloading an app that you had to pay $1,000 for? No one would buy it, because we've got this expectation.
That's right.
That it's free, or a couple of dollars. I suppose I'll pay $2 for that app if I have to.
Yeah.
But trying to get people to pay a subscription fee for a browser.
Well, the thing that gets me is the 1 month free trial, but you've got to give your credit card details to get that. And so, there are people out there who are diligent, and after that month, they decide, no, we're not using that anymore, and so they cancel. But so many of us, and this Huckleberry here, just go, I'll keep going with it.
A little story about the first, well, maybe not the first ever, but the first one I could ever find, cashback voucher offer on a major white good. And so this was a refrigerator. There was a company that had a refrigerator, and one of the marketing gurus in the company came up with the concept and said, right, we're selling this refrigerator for $500. We're going to offer $100 cashback. And his bosses said, you're a lunatic. We only make $100 in this fridge, so you're giving away all of our profit. And he said, no, people are too lazy to do it. We'll suck them in with marketing, and they'll be too lazy to go and make the claim, and we'll make it complicated and hard, which they always do.
Yeah.
And so they went out and marketed it. Their sales went up, and only about 20% of people bothered about doing it. So they didn't give $100 away for each fridge. They gave $20 away. So it was a huge marketing success. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing with subscriptions. People go, one month free. Exactly. You said, I'll do that. You get busy. Oh, they just debited my first month. Well, I might as well use it for the next month now, because I pay for the next month. And the next, I'll just pay for another month.
I must remember to cancel that.
That's right.
How do you go about cancelling? I can't even remember how you cancel it.
And some of them I think are a bit sneaky, because they do make it hard. Yeah. You can do all the change you want online, but you want to cancel, you've got to ring, and of course you ring and you sit on hold, and you go, is my life worth the $2 I'm about to cut off from sitting on hold for 3 hours? So, look.
This is going to win. What you're telling me is that Atlas AI is winning.
That's right. Well, no, I'm not convinced it is, because I think people won't do it in the first place. I think they'll go, why am I paying for something that I get free over here? And there were the great browser wars when Microsoft got in trouble for bundling a browser with the operating system, and obviously the antitrust lawsuit that was filed in America was all about, you can't bundle that because it's giving you too big an advantage in browser wars, but it was free. So how big an advantage could it give you? But essentially, it's one of those things, I think, that you will see someone come up with a model that makes money without having to charge a subscription. Having said that, they charge you money, and I'm quite happy to pay I think it's $20 a month for ChatGPT, because I get value out of ChatGPT. I'm quite happy to pay for that. I'm happy to contribute to it, and we've talked about it before. I don't want them to have ads on there, because then I feel like it's biased in the advice it's giving me. I still want it unbiased, even if it's wrong sometimes. I still want it unbiased wrong rather than biased wrong.
Yeah, I still wonder if things aren't going to just go to ads, just to giving us ads. Yeah,
maybe.
Well,
it's too simple a model that's been around for too long, so maybe.
All right, that's all we have for you today. The tea lady's arrived, and it looks like she's brought the nice bickies as well. I'm not going to miss out again. Thanks for another cracking tech talk, Matt.
Right, I better eat those bickies and then go off and do a poop, so that I can take a photo
take
of
a
my
photo
poop
of the bickies past tense.
And not, that's right, to see what they develop into, and not have anyone think that I'm strange for taking a photo. Well, maybe people still do think I'm strange, but I've got a reason now. It's not just taking a random photo of my poop, it's for my health I'm taking a photo of my poop. Does that make it better? It still seems a bit strange, doesn't it?
It does. And thank you again for tuning into Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson, with all the poop talk and all that came with it as well. We might even try and cut back on some of the poop talk in the future, Matt.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, we're full of all the vitamins and minerals that you need, and so it's got the goodness that you need from week to week. Thank you for tuning in once again. I'm your host, James Eddy, and it's always a pleasure to bring you this tidy little podcast, and we're very proud of it. We hope that you bring some friends along next time you're listening in 1 week's time. But until then, all the best, and we'll see you when we see you.